Ever wonder how economists look at the entire, massive, sometimes pretty chaotic US economy and actually make sense of it all? Well, they have a kind of secret weapon, a model. And today we're going to build that exact model together. It's called aggregate demand and aggregate supply. And trust me, it's the key to understanding everything from economic booms to the headlines you see every single day. So, let's jump right in.
So here's the game plan. First, we'll zoom way out to get the big picture. Then, we'll get into the two main forces that drive absolutely everything. Demand, which is all about spending, and supply, which is all about producing. After that, we'll smash them together to see what happens when they meet. And finally, we'll look at how the people in charge try to use this model to keep the economy on track. It's going to be a great ride, so let's get to it.
All right, let's kick things off with that big picture. You might keep an eye on the price of gas or maybe your favorite coffee, but imagine doing that for everything sold in the entire country all at once. Instead of just one company's sales, we're talking about the total output of the whole nation, what you know as GDP. Yeah, we're zooming way out, and that's the key to understanding the huge forces that shape all of our lives. So this really gets us to the central mystery we're trying to solve today. Why does the economy have these wild ups and downs? You felt it, right? Some years it feels like jobs are everywhere and things are great. Other years, not so much. These are what economists call business cycles, and the model we're building right now is the key to finally unlocking why they happen. Okay, we've set the stage. Now it's time to roll up our sleeves and start building this thing. We're going to start with the demand side of the economy. And it all boils down to one simple question. Who's spending money and how much are they spending? It's a simple question, but the answer is incredibly powerful. Let's get into it. Now, the fancy term for this is aggregate demand, or just AD for short. Don't let the name intimidate you, though. The idea is actually really simple. It's just the grand total of all spending in the economy. We're talking everything from your morning coffee to a new highway system. It's basically the engine of our economy, and we're about to pop the hood and see how it works. And you know what? Economists have a surprisingly simple formula to capture all this spending. It's AD equals C plus I plus G plus X minus M. And I know what you're thinking. What in the world is that alphabet soup? But don't worry, trust me, it's super straightforward once we break it down. Let's decode this thing together. Okay, first up is C. That stands for consumption. That's you, me, all of us, just regular people buying stuff like food, phones, and yes, coffee. Next is I for investment. This is when businesses spend money on things that'll help them grow. New factories, computers, that kind of thing. Then you've got G for government spending on public goods like roads, schools, and defense. And finally, that little piece at the end, net exports. That's just what other countries buy from us, minus what we buy from them. Add all that up, and boom, you've got total spending. Pretty neat, right? So, here's a question. Why do we tend to spend more when overall prices are lower? Well, it turns out there are three really powerful reasons. First, you've got the wealth effect. Think about it. When prices fall, that $20 bill in your wallet can suddenly buy more stuff. You feel a little richer, so you spend more. Then there's the interest rate effect. When prices are low, people and businesses don't need to borrow as much, which tends to push interest rates down. Cheaper loans mean it's a great time to buy a car or for a company to build a new factory. And finally, there's the exchange rate effect. When our prices are low, our products look like a bargain to the rest of the world, so our exports go up. It's a triple whammy for spending. Okay, we've totally cracked the code on the demand side of the economy. But you know what? That's only half the story. Now we got to flip the coin and look at the other side, the supply side. This is all about what businesses are willing and able to produce, and it's every bit as important. So let's do it. And you guessed it, we have a fancy term for this side too. Aggregate supply, or AS for short. This is the total amount of everything that all the businesses in the country are making and selling, from the smallest startup in a garage to the biggest corporation you can think of. It's the grand total of our economy's productive power.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting. For supply, we have to think in two different time frames, the short run and the long run. In the short run, some of a company's costs are sticky. They don't change very fast. The best example, wages. Your salary probably doesn't change every single day, right? So if the price of what a company sells goes up, but their wage costs stay the same, their profits shoot up. And higher profits mean they'll produce more. That's why the short-run supply curve slips up. But in the long run, well, everything has time to adjust. Wages catch up to prices. And at that point, how much we can produce isn't about the current price level anymore. It's about our fundamental potential, our technology, our workers, our resources. That's why the long-run supply curve is just a straight vertical line. You can think of it as our economy's ultimate speed limit.
All right,
We've officially built the two major pieces of our economic puzzle, demand and supply. Now, for the moment we've been waiting for. Let's put them together and see what happens. This is where the magic is, and where we get to see how the whole economy actually ticks.
And here it is. This is the economy's sweet spot. Economists call it macroeconomic equilibrium. It's simply the point where the demand curve crosses the supply curve. And this one single point tells us two incredibly important things: the overall price level in the economy and the total amount of stuff we're producing, also known as real GDP. It's that perfect point where everything is in balance.
But what happens when that equilibrium, that sweet spot, isn't actually where it should be? What if the economy is chugging along, but it's way below its full potential? Well, that's when we get what's called a recessionary gap. It's a clear sign that the economy is underperforming and we're not making as much as we really could be.
And a recessionary gap isn't just some abstract idea on a chart. It has a huge impact on people's lives. It means more people are out of work. It means businesses are really struggling to make sales. It means factories are sitting empty. This is what a recession feels like, and it's almost always caused by a big drop in total spending across the economy.
So what about the flip side? What happens when the economy is running way too hot, when it's trying to produce even more than it's physically capable of in the long run? That's when we find ourselves in an inflationary gap. It's like the economy is in total overdrive, and it's a pace that just can't last.
And the signs of an inflationary gap are the exact mirror image of a recession. Unemployment gets super low, which sounds good, right? But it actually means businesses are desperately competing for workers, driving up wages and then prices for everything else. This is what people mean when they say the economy is overheating. It's like it's running a fever, and it's usually caused by way too much spending in the system.
So, we've seen how the economy can fall into these really painful gaps, either a recession or runaway inflation. But does that mean we just have to sit back and take it? Can we do anything to steer the economy back on track? Well, the answer is yes. And that brings us to our final piece of the puzzle, the tools that governments and central banks use to try and manage this whole thing.
When it comes to steering the economy, policymakers basically have two big levers they can pull. The first is fiscal policy. This is controlled by the government. Think Congress and the president. They can hit the gas by spending more or cutting taxes to boost demand, or they can hit the brakes by doing the opposite. The second lever is monetary policy. This is run by the central bank, the Fed here in the US. Their main tools are adjusting interest rates and the money supply to make borrowing cheaper or more expensive. It's a really delicate balancing act, but these are the two main ways they try to keep the economy stable.
But it's not all about just managing the short-term ups and downs. There's also a long game to be played, and that's where supply-side policies come in. These are all about boosting the economy's fundamental potential, that vertical long-run supply curve we talked about. Think of it this way. Instead of just managing traffic, you're building a whole new, bigger, better highway. These policies focus on things like education, infrastructure, and technology, all with the goal of making our economy more productive for decades to come.
So, after all this, why does it matter? Well, because this model we just built, this is it. This is the key framework that economists and policymakers use to understand the economic news you hear every single day. When you see a headline about GDP or inflation or unemployment, this is the story behind the story. This is the model they're all using to make sense of it. And now you know how to read it too.
And that really brings us to the big, exciting question for the future. We've seen how things like technology and labor, the supply side, define our economy's potential. But now, in a world that's being reshaped by AI, by remote work, by massive global events, what does the future of our economy's supply side even look like? How will these huge changes reshape our ability to produce and to grow? That is the billion-dollar question that's going to define the next chapter of our economic story. And now, you have the tools to start thinking about the answer.